Hey guys, it's Deneb again. It's been a while since I made my last video, and I missed everyone. I missed doing this. Today we're actually going to be discussing something that's it's a really big problem all over the world right now, and I'd like to give my opinion on it. And that topic that we're going to be discussing today would actually be addiction. Okay. Yeah, so for this video, we were given a couple of questions that basically that we wanted to address about addiction. For the first question over there, what is identified as the biggest, as the number one public health challenge of our time? And again, as I mentioned earlier, that is just the idea of addiction. Now, addiction can come out in different kinds of forms, but the worst one that's really come about is really drug abuse. You know what I mean? Substance abuse. Now, the reason being why it's so hard for everybody is that it's just the availability of all the substances. You know what I mean? It's just everybody could actually get hold of this quite easy. Well, I'm not saying it's quite easy, but it's, again, if there's a demand, there's a supply for this, right? So what's really challenging for the public about this is that it's so hard for them to escape from it. Once you get into that, it basically just draws you back, and that's why a lot of people are having a hard time trying to recover from this, and it creates both physical and a psychological dependence on the product, right? So for the physical, basically, it's like a lot of people that are addicted, and I know a couple of friends of mine, they say that their body craves it. It's because they got so used to using it, and now it's their body is actually looking for that, and because of that, it also factors in for their psychological dependence on it. Like, now they feel that they need it, that they have those cravings that they need to satisfy, and it's just a sick cycle that just keeps on going around, right? So we are also given a video to watch. It's a nice little documentary about the prevalence of drugs, especially on the I-95, which is, if you think about it, it's actually connected to where we are in New Brunswick, because basically once you get out into Maine, if you want to go to the US, it's the I-95. So not only does it connect from Florida to Maine, there might be a possibility to really actually cross the border over there, right? So yeah, so in that documentary, I'm going to be adding out a link in the descriptions in case you guys just want to watch it. But we were asked about what person in that documentary really stood out, and for me, that person would be Anna. I believe she was featured in the first part of the documentary. What really makes her stand out for me is because she was young. She was introduced as a 21-year-old woman, and now she is, I think by the end of the documentary there, she was 23. There was a 2-year gap over there, but for that young age to be addicted to something like that, and it's just really, how should I say this, disheartening. You know what I mean? You can actually see how much she was drawn into that kind of addiction together with her boyfriend, and you can see the changes that she was going through, over the years, like her physical changes, for example, right? She started out as a little bit like a nice, young, healthy, but there was already some indications that she might have been using or she was already drug dependent from previous years, but man, as she progressed over the next couple of years, and she really changed a lot, and not just only her, but her boyfriend as well, right? And then it's just sad that, again, at a young age, she had to go through a lot of things, like she got into prostitution just to basically just cover out her needs. She got incarcerated, that kind of stuff. And I mean, it's just so sad. It's like she has so much potential. I remember when I was 21. I think I was still in the university during that time, but yeah, imagine her being out in the street and trying to, survive, right? So again, it's just a waste of life, is what I think of it. Okay, so for the next one, we are going to discuss about the costs that it had for that individual, for Anna. So let's talk about the physical costs that it did for her. Again, physically, her body changed. You could see that her teeth, her hair, her skin, because of this drug dependence for fentanyl, and probably some other drugs too, because from what I've seen there, they were mixing fentanyl with all sorts of like drugs just to get that high, right? And since these things are synthetic, really, it just took a toll on her body. Like, you can see those changes for those scabs on her legs, and she was picking on it. The weight loss, that's just unreal. The next cost that I could think about would be her mental health. Because of that addiction, she probably already had like some sort of mental health problems that she needed to deal with, probably depression or anxiety, and then because of that led over to the addiction, and because of the addiction, now it's just making the problems more worse. You know what I mean? Now she's depressed in that state. She knows what she's in. She wants to get help, but she's already at that point that she's kind of like giving up. And again, for her age, to give up that, it's just, I don't know, it's just hard to talk about, right? Another cost that would have been done for her would be her intrapersonal, cost, like for her family, for her friends. She feels that she's no longer connected. She feels that she's isolated, and she's lost that connection with family, her social skills. Again, she's starting to become like a recluse, just trying to find some solace probably with her fellow addicts like that, but they're all in the same state. They're all losing a lot when it comes to like the social aspect of it, right? You know, and again, we're as human beings, we are social beings, and I've said this on my previous videos as well. And lastly, one cost that I could also think of is just that like actual monetary cost. It's like for drug purchases, try to survive, food, kind of like that. It's just a lot of like waste. And not only that, if you think about the monetary cost in general, how much did the government actually spend for like paying out for the healthcare, paying out for the police force, trying to like enforce this, trying to like help them out, the EMTs, you know what I mean? There's a lot of underlying costs aside from for monetary costs, aside from the actual purchases for the drugs and stuff. We're trying to, how should I say this? Not fix, we're trying to face the challenges of drug addiction itself. And it's a waste of, they could have used that for something better, right? But because it's such a big problem, most of the funds are going over there. And I get it, right? I get it, and it's really hard to stop the cost. So rather not the cost, but rather the supply for this, because it's most likely coming from, I don't know, outside of the country, or like what they said in the documentary, it's so cheap to manufacture. The law enforcement's trying hard now to like try to catch them, and again, it's just daily costs that keeps on getting built up, and it's the taxpayers paying for that, right? So it's sad. Okay, so for the fourth question, Why has it been so difficult for this person to break the addiction cycle? Okay, so as what was presented in the documentary, she was in a relationship with her boyfriend, and what's happening there is because of that relationship that she has with her boyfriend, they're both addicted to substance abuse, right? And in order for them to get high, they both try to, I don't know, it's just sort of like dependence on each other, right? And because of that dependence, it kind of fuels Anna's needs to satisfy them both, which again results in her selling herself just to meet those needs. And the sad part about that is that probably the boyfriend is trying to do the same thing as well. If Anna can't get her supply, he probably has to like steal or do something criminal based just to I don't know, just to survive or just to get by, right? You know, it's disappointing that instead of helping each other, they're both getting dependent on each other, and again they're just falling down and really getting hurt more and more every day. And I also feel that because of that depression that she has, that feeling of hopelessness that she has, and her poor mental health, that's why it's hard for her to really break that cycle. As long as she continues to be in that state, not getting any help, not getting any aid, because there's a lot of like rehab centers that can actually, there's a lot of social community work that can actually help her, as was presented by the angel community that was trying to feed those addicts. And it's like they understand what it is to be like that, and all she needs to do is she has to willingly accept what it is, right? And I don't know, I don't know what she's going through right now, but if she feels that addiction is trying to put her in a good spot and she feels solace and comfort for that, it's going to be hard for you to pull that person out, knowing that that's her safe place, right? Because again, the biggest part of and the hardest part, I think, of trying to get better from addiction is that withdrawal, and it's hard. I mean, for us, even people who are not addicts have a hard time with change, right? And for them, that's a big one. Okay, and for the last question that we have, it's more of what kind of role or what would I be able to do as a nurse, right? For like basically just some nursing interventions at this point. One thing that you could always do if you have a patient like that, or somebody who's suffering for something like that, is just a lot of emotional support. You have to understand the difficulty of the addiction itself, right? I would probably try to assist this person, try and direct that drive, that like urge for me to get that high, but kind of like in a positive way. You can always do like a lot of it, like activities, some hobbies. I got some hobbies over here for sure. Or trying to just try to connect to that person, trying to find something to redirect that energy into something that's positive, right? It's going to be hard, but again, that's what we're here as support, right? We could also try to promote like a nice, good, positive environment, and I believe that's what like most rehab centers are trying to do. They're trying to put like a safe haven where nobody's going to judge you, trying to help people like that understand the whole concept of what it is and how detrimental it is for you to be addicted, right? It'll be good to be able to connect with family and friends, just trying to build like that nice, good circle of trust around that person, just to help them out. And most addicts, from what I've experienced, and people like on documentaries like that, they know there's a lot of people that really do care for them. But again, that's what we're here for. Like for some nursing intervention that you can do, you have to let them know that you're there. We're helping them out every step of the way. Another good thing that you can also do for them is like education. You can be as repetitive as you want, but you need to teach them the effects of what happens, like for dependence, right? And one good way of actually doing this is kind of like a group therapy, surrounding that person with like a lot of like like-minded people who knows how it is, and basically just trying to learn from each other's experiences, teaching them the pros, the cons, what's going on, how can we help out, things like that. And yeah, that's the best kind of treatment that we can try to do for these people. Because if you also look at this and you try to apply like a medical like aspect on them, trying to get them off on it, maybe if it's just some like some sort of drugs to get them out of it, but since their body's already used to it, you know what I mean, it's better for you to look more into it aside from just like the physical aspect on it. You gotta look on it at like a holistic level, and at that point, like what I mentioned earlier, people suffering from addiction most often had some mental health issues to begin with. So if you start from there and work your way down, it's gonna work itself out. Okay, and that is it for my video. Again, it's gonna be a little bit long because I'm giving out my opinions on that, and I hope you guys had fun listening and basically getting some insight of how what I thought about the video and the whole topic in itself. Right now, we are still, I believe, on the red zone. So I always tell everybody watching my videos, if anybody's actually watching my videos, please be safe, be kind, and I will see you in the next video. This is Deneb, signing out.